Hello and welcome to A Little Crafting. My name is Annie and this is my video podcast where I talk about all of the things that I have been making. That usually consists of some knitting, potentially some weaving, some yarn dyeing, some spinning, and also some sewing or some embroidery. If you're new to the channel, you can find me on Instagram as a_little_crafting, though I haven't posted there in a while. And I'm on Ravelry as Ankiwoo. Today is Friday the 28th of June. So I did say I would record monthly in my last episode. I think I'm just about there, just about in the month of June. I last recorded early May, so let me keep it to a calendar month and hopefully I'll make it in terms of my pledge to you all. I am not wearing any knitwear today, mainly because it has been absolutely roasting in the UK. By roasting, I realise it's not as high temperatures as southern European countries like Spain, where it can easily get up to 35-40 degrees Celsius. In the UK it's been sort of 28-29 the last couple of days, but we're definitely not used to it here. And I don't think our houses are built for it. I'm in a new build house. It's got a lot of insulation and it just keeps the heat in. That's what it's designed for, to save us money during the winter. So in the summer when it gets very hot, we're not very well equipped to deal with it. Lots of fans and things around, but the houses aren't really created for warm weather. So yeah, it's cooled down today, thankfully, but still not cool enough for me to be wearing knitwear to show off to you. I did stick a shawl on and walked around in it in 5 minutes and realised it was too hot. So we will bypass that section this week. So I will go straight into finished objects. And I do only have one because you'll see my other projects are larger and are going to take me more time. I said last time I was knitting a little baby jacket. This one is called the Sogenfri jacket by Guri Pendersen. And I have knit it in this yarn, and you can tell I like this colour because it's pretty close to the top that I'm wearing. And this is Merino Yak by Regia. It's a 4-ply yarn and it is 58% wool, 28% polyamide and 14% yak. And the colourway I cannot see on the label here. Oh, here we go. It's colour 07507, which I think might be called something like raspberry. But yeah, this is a lovely colour. But yeah, and I think it's designed as a sock yarn, but I decided to use it for this little baby jacket. And here is the result. So because I used 4-ply instead of DK, which the pattern calls for, what I did was, because this is going to be for like 0 to 6 months I imagine, I knit the 6 to 9 month size, knowing that I would make it a bit shorter, and that I was using a tighter gauge. I did gauge swatch, I figured out all of my calculations and all of that. But yeah, it's a very, very cute little, it will have buttons. I will show you the button ideas later. It's a little button up jacket. It hasn't been blocked yet, so I haven't woven in the ends. But yeah, that's what it looks like at the moment. I really enjoyed this pattern. I saw that Emma Robinson of Woolly Mammoth Fibre also knit one of these for her daughter recently. But yeah, it was quite a good pattern, like stitch pattern, to keep working on. It kept me occupied. It's essentially just rib and then garter ridges. But it's very effective, and I think it looks very nice, especially with this kind of yoke at the top. It works really well with the increases. So I would definitely knit this pattern again. And yeah, I'm counting it as finished, even though it isn't fully finished. But I will at some point wash it and block it, sew on the buttons, weave in the ends, and then it's ready to go to be gifted, probably. Yeah, so highly recommend the pattern. The one thing I did find is there was something odd about the age ranges. So I think it went 0 to 3, something like it went 0 to 3 months, and then it went 6 to 9. So it kind of skipped the 3 to 6 months. But I don't know if that's just the way that they figured out the sizing, maybe because of the stitch pattern they couldn't do a 3 to 6 month. But I imagine with baby patterns you can make a bigger one and then it will fit them for longer anyway. So yeah, I have finished that one. I've just rolled up the sleeves because I think I made them a bit long, unless the baby that receives this has very long arms. But yeah, overall quite enjoyable to knit. This yarn feels a little bit rougher before it's been blocked, but once it has been blocked, I tested with the swatch, it goes very, very soft. I imagined that was going to happen because the yak typically does that. It's super soft after it's been washed. So yeah, that is my finished object for this week. I should have said I also would have sized out quite a lot in needle sizes. I think I ended up knitting it on 2.5mm needles. One reason is that my gauge is very loose when I'm knitting, and the other one is obviously I was using fingering weight instead of DK, so I needed to size down to get the right texture and make sure that the fabric was what I wanted. So quite a success, I think, considering I went in with the wrong size yarn. But hopefully it will fit a baby at some point in time. So next up, I was knitting a Northeasterly blanket. This is a pattern by Skeinanigans. And I'm using mini skeins and undyed yarns for this. The mini skeins were a 2019 advent calendar by Nora George Yarns, who is no longer dyeing yarn. But I thought this was a great way to use up my mini skeins. This has temporarily gone on pause, or at least it's my travel project, so I haven't been picking it up so much. Mainly because I had the Sogenfri jacket and I've got another project that I want to be working on primarily at the moment, so this is just a pick up as and when I want to. So yeah, so I've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these chevrons done, and then I'm working on the last one, which will be the 6th one for this row. So you can see that was the first one I did, and then I've got the undyed one there, second one there, third one there, and then I'm working on an undyed end. And then what I'll do for the next row is I will pick up to one side and do it the other way around. So I'll do an undyed next to this one, a hand dyed next to that one, so that it kind of almost makes a grid, but obviously chevrons instead. And I think they look really nice. I still need to see what happens with this one because I seem to knit it very, very tight. But it's definitely a good project for example, when you're waiting for an appointment. You could just sit. The rows don't take very long, so you can do a row or two quite quickly, which means that if you get called into an appointment, you can just stop and stick it in your knitting project bag quite quickly, rather than having to go, I just need to pause, hold on a second, and keep people waiting. I have one more that I have wound up. I think well, I'll be using this in the next row, so I thought it would work quite well as a diagonal from the first one that I did, which was this one, because it's a similar-ish colour. So we'll see about that. And then in terms of what I've got left over from some of these squares, sorry, not squares, some of these, I do have a fair amount left over, but I figure I can do a scrappy stripe project after this once I've finished the blanket itself. And so far, how many colours have I got? So I've got 3 colours so far, so still quite a way to go to use up all of these, but I'll just keep going until I am done pretty much, and I'll add rows as and when I have 6 chevrons in one row. I'm also knitting this on 2.5mm needles. Again, it's all sock weight, fingering weight yarn, so that makes sense for me. And yeah, a really simple pattern to follow. Obviously I haven't added a new row yet, so I'm going to need to actually pay attention to the instructions for that. But it's a great just get out for 5 minutes, knit a few rows, put it away again project. And it's quite mindless in general, except for the little bit of interest in terms of increase and decreases to make that kind of chevron shape. Yeah, I'm keeping this in a quince pie project bag. Unfortunately she is not making these anymore, but I do really like them as kind of, again, grab and go project bags. They're quite small, and I love the round bottoms so that they sit very nicely. Next. So there are a lot of babies being born around me at the moment, and I wanted to make a blanket for one of my colleagues at work. So she is due in September, and her favourite colour is yellow, so I had to make her a yellow blanket. She's having a little girl as well. I had a good look on Ravelry at different blanket options, but I wanted hers to be kind of a little bit more stylish than just like a garter baby blanket, or the one that I've done before is kind of a pinwheel design. I thought about doing that one again, but I wanted something with cables. So I decided on the Droplet blanket by Purl Soho, and it doesn't have cables, but it's got like faux cables in it. And this is where I am so far. So the cable pattern's really nice, or the faux cable pattern is really nice. In the pattern itself, which is a free pattern, it does have you repeat that pattern further up in sections. And what I'm probably going to do though is just have it at each end of the blanket, and the rest of it is all in this 3x1 rib. Yeah, it's going to be quite sizable, I think, but that should be good. And the yarn is something, again, I've used before for baby blankets, which is Paintbox yarn, simply Aran, and this is colour 223, which I think is called mustard, but I think it's more of a honey colour. I really like that as a yellow. It would never suit me, but for a baby blanket it's really good. So yeah, I'm getting on quite well with this. Obviously the pattern at the bottom took a bit longer than it would normally take to do 3x1 rib. I'm hoping that that will stretch out nicely and not cinch in like it's doing at the moment once I've blocked it. And I think it looks great. Really like it. I have I think 6 balls total, and I'm about halfway through one. So I'll keep going as much as I want, and then hopefully I'll still have enough yarn left to finish the edge on the other end. Yeah, and then I'm knitting these on my interchangeable hires, which are 3.25 millimeters. Again, I tend to have to size down. I know typically you'd be knitting DK weight yarn on 4mm needles, not so for me, and this is Aran weight, so it's even thicker. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoy how this looks, and it's been fairly simple and easy to follow so far. I've been knitting it during D&D and I've been able to follow the story, so that is a testament to the simplicity of a project when I'm trying to follow what my DM is doing and also figure out what my character is doing at the same time, and knit as well. So I'm probably going to be pretty monogamous on this because it is a gift and it has a time limit. I want to make sure that it will be done in time for gifting. So yeah, that is that one. Before I go on to what I am knitting next, I mentioned that there are lots of pregnant women around me. I am one of them, so I am also expecting a baby, also in September, along with a lot of other people I know, which is really very random. So the little cardigan will actually be for my daughter, which is very exciting. The Sogenfri jacket. And yes, that's probably why I've been so busy recently. Appointments, figure out house stuff, reorganising the house to make space. And you can probably tell I get a bit more out of breath when I'm talking as well. So yeah, really looking forward to it. Everything's fine at the moment, which is great. And that is partly why I've been knitting all of these baby knits, but then also I've felt like I needed to also make things for my colleagues, my friends who are also expecting. So there's a lot of babies coming in autumn apparently, and yet I don't know anyone who lives locally who is also expecting at the same time. So it's a little bit odd in a way. But yeah, that's the situation, and that is why my podcast has become so baby focused. I think if there weren't so many other babies, I would probably still be knitting for myself. But I'm conscious that I want to make some things for my own daughter and then also make some things for my friends and colleagues to gift, and everybody's hitting at the same time. So I'm preparing by getting ready early, and that's why I kind of planned to start the baby blanket for one of my colleagues earlier than you might normally. So yeah, 2.5 months left until there are a lot more little babies around. Let's see how that goes. But yes, so the next thing I want to make is a Norwegian Fir cardigan. I think it's actually called Norwegian Fir top down cardigan. It is a pattern by OGE Knitwear Designs, and one of the ladies in my craft group has already knit one of these, so I know it's a very nice pattern to knit. My only challenge was I was trying to stash bust with this, so again, one of my aims for this year, and also making space in the house, is to try and use up stash for a lot of these baby knits. Unfortunately, a lot of these tiny cardigan patterns need more than one skein of DK weight yarn, which is a challenge because a lot of the time I have been buying single skeins, which usually work for a hat for an adult, right? So I did end up having to buy some more yarn, and this is going to segue into probably acquisitions in a minute. So I bought some alpaca socks, 6-ply easy wash, from Lang Yarns, and this one I think must be a sport weight, but it's in this really neutral, slightly peachy ecru colour. It's alpaca and polyamide, but yeah, as I think it's sport weight, it's also 150 grams, which is great because that means that I'm not going to use 1 and a bit skeins. Hopefully I'll use all of this, or almost all of it, for this cardigan. It's sport weight, but I'm hoping I can knit it at a DK weight gauge. I will see once I get swatching. The pattern looks like a very simple top-down raglan with a bit of nice detail. It seems very popular. I will need to double check if anyone has knit it out of this on Ravelry. So there are 3,131 projects. So a lot of people have knit this or tried to knit it. Not necessarily all of them have completed it, but I think it will be super cute. I'll pop a picture just here. I'm sure a lot of you will have seen it around though. So yeah, this is colourway 1087.002 and it has 390 meters for 150 grams. So yeah, that's what's making me think it's probably more of a sport weight, because typically you'd have 400 meters for 100 grams in figuring, I think, or 4-ply. I could double check actually. What's the... Yeah, 100 grams is 400 meters in this one. So I'm thinking it's a sport to DK weight. But it does still look quite thin, but no problem. And this should be lovely and soft. It's in a neutral colour, all of that. So this is going to be for my baby. And yeah, I think she'll need quite a lot of these little cardigans over autumn winter after she's born. So it'll be quite exciting to have a few that are hand knit at least. Yeah, so I'll probably be casting that on sometime this weekend. Be lovely. Talking of more baby knits, and I do apologise for anyone who isn't here for that, I am going to be knitting a few little baby hats, mainly for other people, because I can't knit blankets for everybody at this point, especially when I want to prioritise my own rather than other people's. So I'm knitting one blanket as a gift, but for the rest I'm going to be knitting some little baby hats. My absolute favourite pattern for baby hats is the beloved Aran by Solenn Couix-Loarer. I don't know how exactly to say that, even though I'm half French. So I have knit a lot of these for many babies, many children. They are great because with the yarn that I use, they are stretchy, so they last them a long time. They're nice and warm. They're an interesting pattern. Obviously I don't have any on me to show you, but again, I can pop a picture in right here. And the yarn I use is Debbie Bliss Cash Merino Aran. It's 55% wool, 33% acrylic and 12% cashmere. And one ball of this makes a newborn hat, so it's absolutely perfect. This one is colourway 3064. It's a yellow, so that will be going to this recipient probably. This one is a nice sage green, going to someone else. 3076 is the colourway. And then I've also got just an ecru colour in the same for someone else. And then I also have 2 balls somewhere of purple, and my work logo is purple, so I was also going to make one of those for my baby and one for another colleague. And then we'll have an array of different colours. We can take pictures of them all in their matching hats. It'll be awesome. But yes, generally they will stretch. Those hats, they do really well. For some of my friends who have a, I think, 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, they really wore them for a long time, and then I knit them a larger size and they wore them, although I think they're still wearing them, which is crazy because they're like small child size and yet a 6-year-old is wearing them. So yeah, they last for ages and they're nice and soft and stretchy, and children tend to like wearing them, so that's great. I'll keep with that formula for now. So yeah, I've got a few nice baby colours there for those. I will do acquisitions because they're knitted item related, and then I'm going to segue onto sewing in a second. So I needed some buttons, just to remind you, for this little jacket so that my daughter and I can match, obviously. And I find it really hard to pick buttons online. So I ended up going into London a couple of weeks ago, and I was meeting up with my husband after work. He works near Piccadilly, and I thought, well, I can go to Liberty, and he had found another shop and told me about it, called Macculloch and Wallis, which is this logo. They gave me a little tote bag. And this shop is amazing, honestly. The amount of buttons, the amount of zips that they have in there, go and check it out. It's trying to think of the road, but it's just around the corner from Liberty, so you can probably find it online if you're in that area. So I'll show you the buttons that I got from there, and then we can have a look together at how they look with the cardigan. So I kind of wanted neutral / wooden buttons. Sorry for the crinkling. And I got a whole load of wooden ones from Macculloch and Wallis. I think they're actually made of coconut. So you see, how am I going to show this? There you go. So they're kind of light wood coloured. They're dark on the back. And I thought they would go quite nicely with this one. But what I'm actually thinking is of using these ones for the top of this. So I think I'm gonna, some people have put 3 buttons at the top of the Norwegian Fir rather than one big one. So I'm probably going to end up doing that with these, although I do have, I think, about 14 of them. So I've got some for other projects as well. So that's one option. Actually, let me show you, again, sorry for the crinkling, show you how they look on the cardigan as well. Can I hold it? Yeah, so that actually looks quite nice too. I know most of it is obscured by my fingers, but you get the idea. I think that will look quite nice too if I decide to use those on there as well. So yeah, I've got a lot. Geez, I think it's about 12 or 14. I went up to the counter with the number I wanted, and they said it was actually cheaper for more of them. So I bought more of them, because you can never, you know, say no to more buttons as they get lost or broken. It makes sense to get a few more, especially when it was cheaper. So I've got some spares if I need them, or I can use them on multiple projects. And then from Liberty, so you have to open the lovely packaging. Obviously they're beautiful purple in the Liberty paper bag. So the Liberty ones are lighter. I'll see if I can show you in the same way. They're kind of pearlescent white with 4 holes, and they also have a kind of pattern on the back. I think it's probably a Liberty fabric pattern that they've got on the back of all of them, that's obviously not too visible on most of them. But yeah, you can see it better on here, on this one here. Yeah, pretty standard little buttons. But I thought they might be, well, this is before I went to Macculloch and Wallis, so I thought they might work quite well on this one as well. A bit more high contrast than the others. Again, let me see if I can show you on that backdrop. Yeah, more high contrast, so they'll be much more visible along the button band there. But yeah, I had a nice look around. I'll definitely be buying from Macculloch and Wallis again because their selection is amazing. Liberty, of course, has a bit of a brand attached to it, so I think in general it's probably going to be more expensive and they have less range. But it's still lovely to have a look around as well, and see what they've got and have a look at the lovely fabrics and dream about quilting with them, and then realising how expensive it is. And so yeah, so that was a nice little trip just to buy some buttons, really. And yeah, I also did buy the Alpaca Socks yarn from Macculloch and Wallis, so they do have quite a lot of yarn in there. They've got these amazing displays which are sheep, and then the yarn is all stacked up on the sheep. I will pop a picture of that in here. That was one of the reasons that my husband took a picture and sent it to me and said you should check this place out. So yeah, that is my acquisitions complete, and I will still have a play around with the different buttons, probably stick something on Instagram to say what do you guys think, vote on one or the other. I've got, what, yeah, like I said, 11 weeks or possibly more, because she probably won't be wearing this straight away, it'll be too big. So yeah, let's see, it's quite exciting. I don't often buy buttons or knit things that need buttons, so I will have to figure out how to sew them on as well, which I've not really done before. Oh, except for the owl sweater that I made for my friend that had buttons for eyes. So yeah, that's where I am with knitting. Quick segue into sewing. I am going to be knitting a baby quilt for my baby, not anyone else's. And this one is roughly based on the pattern for Spiny Peaks, which is a Moda Fabrics pattern. I'll link in the description below. So I had a really lovely jelly roll from the Craft Cotton Company. I will double check on the actual fabric name. I've lost the tag, annoyingly, but I think it's an Emma Shaw one. And I chose these before I knew what gender my baby was, so it's quite nice and gender neutral. But I am using these specific fabrics with a contrasting neutral in a solid colour, basically. And this is how it's looking so far. So, ooh, having a bit of trouble holding it up. There you go. So when I say I'm roughly using the Spiny Peaks pattern, I wanted some sort of chevron pattern, and I wanted to show off the really lovely fabrics you can see here, and then separate them with that neutral colour. So I've got the green at the top and I've got a white that I'm using on the next row. It is a lot narrower than I expected now I've started, but I can add borders on. I'll just see how it looks as I'm going. And so far it's been quite fun. It did require a lot of maths to begin with, and the reason that it's quite narrow is I did accidentally cut one of my pieces in half because of the way that I was cutting the fabric. So I've had to kind of narrow it a little bit. But yeah, like I said, I've got lots of strips of fabric. I can add some borders if I need to, and it should be a really nice quilt at the end of it. This is what I've done. So essentially I have taken apart the jelly roll and added the strips of solid colours in between. Let me see if I can reasonably unravel this. I also find that whenever I get these fabric packs, there are little tiny bits of fabric that get absolutely everywhere. So yeah, so you can see, I'll just show you from this side. You've got the kingfishers, then I've got a yellow, so the kingfishers will be at the bottom. Then after the kingfishers I've got this lovely water lily flower pattern with coral. Oh sorry, it's Debbie Shaw. That's the name of the fabric designer. Then I've got a solid yellow to kind of go with that. And there's frogs and flowers on a green lily pad and a green background. You've got these little coral flowers on a teal background. Green again, solid green. More birds. I thought were really nice. Different coloured flowers on a coral background. A neutral blue. Then we've got a little lake scene with fish and lily pads again, and green lily pads. I think, yeah. Oh no, there's way more. Green lily pads. Oh, okay, I see. So I am, yeah, so those are that's the range of colours plus the ones I've already put in. So what I'm going to be doing is going down, and then I actually had 2 strips of each pattern. So I'll do those patterns again, repeated, in the next rows. So yeah, and that's my very badly wound jelly roll with the order that I want to be sewing in. So yeah, it's quite reasonably straightforward, but I'm very conscious of making mistakes, especially because I have already, but otherwise it's looking nice. I think it'll be a really lovely neutral quilt that baby can spend some time lying on. I do have some backing fabric, but I have left that downstairs. It is just going to be a really light yellow. And yeah, otherwise enjoying that again. I have pledged never to make quilts for anyone else again until I recover from the last experience, which was that when I put the quilt in the wash, it faded and was fairly badly damaged before I'd even gifted it to the person. So making a quilt for my own is fine. I don't need to stress about it. It doesn't have to be done as quickly. I've got a bit of time. If I don't finish it by the time she's born, that doesn't matter, I'm not going to stress. So yeah, but I wanted to have that kind of nice chevron pattern and highlight those beautiful fabrics that that I already had in my stash. I think that is everything. Cross stitching, embroidery, spinning are all on the back burner at the moment. I just haven't felt like doing them, and I feel like I need to get all of these gifts done before I can relax into something other than knitting. And I also have a lot of plans for what I want to knit my own baby, which means that I'm kind of monogamous in that sense. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you're enjoying your crafts at the moment, especially in this part of the world where it's very hot and you're finding something that you can do despite the heat. And I will come back and record an episode in July. Otherwise, have a lovely crafty few weeks, and I hope to see you soon.